it's Orktober, and if it's Orktober, I've got to paint an orc. But I'm a bit limited for time, honestly, so I figured, what better than slapchop? And slapchop, funny enough, works great for orcs. So I'm going to dig into a retro orc. I'm going to pick up this wonderful metal guy. I've got many in the box that I need to do, so let's get cracking. Hi, I'm Matt. This is Coffee and Paint Water, and it's Orktober, so let's get cracking on some orcs. So, starting out with a black primer, you're going to pick a grey paint of your choice. Go with a darker colour, something like Dawnstone, and then just start dry brushing the crap out of your mini. Don't be shy, get it all over, pick out all that detail, and your first layer will look something like this. Now you're going to move up in the scale a little bit. You're going to go for a lighter grey. I just happen to have a game colour wolf grey to hand, but any light grey would do here. This is going to be a slightly lighter dry brush, and you just want to make sure that you're picking out the very finest details here. This is going to give you that perfect contrast underneath, and this, in essence, is the idea of slapchop. Once your contrast paints start going on, all of these areas are pre-highlighted effectively for you. I'm going to move into the skin, and I've gone with a contrast paint of orc flesh. Slapping this one down and across, immediately it'll start picking out definition for you based on the dry brushing you've done prior. All of the muscles will become more defined because of this technique, and it takes literal hours potentially out of your paint jobs. Now I'm going to move into my many shades of brown. I'm going to start off with his pants here. Just going to paint it on. I love this colour so much. It's actually one of my favourite of all the contrast paints in the line. And I'm just going to pick out all of these pants, all of the creases and folds. And I'm going to move on to things like his glove sections. And just selectively picking anything that I think is some kind of hide or leather that this orc is going to be taking into battle. Going to immediately follow that up with a snakebite leather. I'm going to selectively pick out some different sections. So for this I'm going to go with things like the belts, maybe some straps around the arms, anything where I think a slightly lighter tone could be used. Moving on to Gore-grunter fur now. Again, one of my many shades of brown, but I'm going to target the boots in this case. Just something slightly different. And even though they're multiple shades of brown, because the contrast paint is going over this slapchop method, they actually look like there's a number of different layers. It just gives it that bit of interest even though it's multiple browns. So the final stop on this journey of discovery of the brown spectrum, I'm picking up Wildwood. It's the darkest of the browns that I believe I own in my collection. I'm just going to pick out the last few sections of either hide, leather or wood. I'm going to pick up the pouches that I've got here around his back, and then also going to target the banner pole he's got. From this though, I'm going to move on to some slightly more interesting colours, I believe. Staple for everyone, lead belcher. I think I use this on every model, and you won't be shocked to find out this is just going to go on any of the silver sections. I know that there are some Army Painter metallic contrasts. I haven't really had a chance to use them properly yet, so I'm just going to stick to the tried and tested lead belcher. Can't go wrong. I'm also going to go with the recipe that I've used on this channel before. I'm a Bad Moons guy, so I'm going to go with my Outland Sunset, and I'm going to pick out all of the armor panels in yellow. Like, obviously this is deviating from the slapchop method, But I just love this look, and I do eventually follow up as part of the recipe with a contrast paint. Damn, that's a good yellow. Next up is medium grey from the model colour range for Vallejo. This I use for just some select panel sections. Again, deviating a little bit from the slapchop method, but this is just part of my particular orc recipe. I just like this colour. It's kind of somewhere between a cream and a grey. I'm moving into little sections of cloth that he's got around him here, and just giving that kind of grey-blue element. Again, nice colour, just picks things out. Every single orc player at some point mixes red and yellow is just the way to go. So I'm just going to pick out a few key details across the orc now. So just going the back of the banner here, and then maybe a couple of little sections on his bolter. Just makes it a little bit more interesting than it was before. Now, a new favourite paint of mine, Pro Acryl's Bronze. I'm just going to apply this to a few sections of what would be metal around the areas, just so it's not entirely silver everywhere. And then your magic in a bottle, a bit of Agrax Surfshade. Gonna douse this over everything silver. It's just gonna do what it always does, just gonna soak in, provide that contrast that you need. And I like that it kind of manipulates the cover as well. It's just kind of stains it. I do the exact same thing for any of that medium grey. I just like the dirty look on my orcs. It's just part of my little in-house recipe of how I like to get them. Now for that yellow. As I mentioned, I apply some contrast paint to this. And this is my recipe for Bad Moon Orcs, as you've seen before. So every yellow section just gets a coat of this. Does two things, picks out that definition, and also kind of dirties it down while it's going as well. Looks great, especially on these old school orcs where the chest plates have got all that kind of natural denting and scratching. Really picks out all of the detail they've got there. Moving on to Rhinox hide now for all of the horns, any of the fingernails, any of the teeth. Just doing a nice base cover on that. Next up, Bugman's Glow. Immediately spotting my mistake as I do this. Should have done this before I did the teeth, but I just go back in and touch the T-buff afterwards. I like to dot it around the mouth, just change it up, makes it look a little bit more lifelike and fleshy. Then using that Rhinox hide with the sponge chipping method, just picking out nice little sections here and there across bits of the armor panels, dirties them up, roughs them up, makes it look great. Moving on to Pale Sand, and just doing the lightest little dry brush around bits of the yellow armor. So I'm not edge highlighting as such. I want it a bit more rough and ready, but I still want that little bit of edge definition. Just gives it an extra little pop. Again, just the way I like to do my orcs. Scorn Red by P3, absolutely one of my favourite reds. And with this I'm going to go with very quick edge highlighting on the red sections. I don't have very many edge sections to actually do for the red, and it's just a bit more rough and ready. I also use this to pick out the eyes. I like the idea that my orcs have red eyes for some reason. Thrash Metal then from Scale Color. Just use this to pick out and edge highlight some sections of the metallics, a few scratches and dings on the axe there. Now my final steps for the horns, teeth, and fingernails. Move in initially with XV88. Follow that up with a Zandri Dust, and it's just going down in sections, just leaving little bits visible, and just creating a horn-like texture to it. Moving in with a lower down section with Ishabti bone. It just does a great job of just turning these into quick horns. I'm not going for masterpieces here. This idea is I'm trying to paint this in an evening. I also use that to then pick out little bits of stitching on any of the fabric. Again, not a great deal of effort, but nice detail. And then I finish that off with a bit of wraith bone just to the tips of the teeth and the horns. Gives it that final little touch to make it seem pretty nice. So there you go. My orc is pretty much done. I just need to base him, and I'm going to follow my standard orc basing method I've already got on this channel. It's that kind of Mad Max style. I think that works really well with my bad moons. And yes, I know I didn't technically do slapchop throughout, but about 80% of it was slapchop, and ultimately I stuck to the plan of doing this in one evening. I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm really happy that I've got another retro orc to join the family. I hope you all enjoyed this, and thanks again for stopping by for this special Orktober edition of Coffee and Paint Water. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.